Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. A former Wesleyan University soccer player is accused of murdering his brother and allegedly eating his eyeballs.
A former Wesleyan University soccer player is accused of killing his brother in New Jersey. Princeton police arresting 31-year-old Matthew Hurtgen. Investigators believe Hurtgen beat and stabbed his 26-year-old brother Joseph over the weekend inside an apartment. Matthew Hurtgen is charged with first-degree murder. He graduated from Wesleyan in 2015.
Now, in this extremely disturbing alleged incident that took place in a luxury apartment in Princeton, New Jersey, 31-year-old Matthew Hurtgen allegedly beat and stabbed his 26-year-old brother to death, and allegedly, after murdering his brother and killing a cat, allegedly ripped the eyeball out of his brother's body and ate it. And after participating in this crime, Matthew Hurtgen then allegedly called up 911, which discovered Matthew Hurtgen's mutilated body, a bloody knife, a fork, and a plate, and also found charred remains of a cat, and then also found evidence of a blade and a golf club that was used in the crime. Now, after finding all of this evidence, 31-year-old Matthew Hurtgen, a former college soccer player who came from a wealthy family, was taken into custody, and after being taken into custody by Princeton, New Jersey police, he was charged possibly with murder and taken into custody. Now, the police in Princeton, New Jersey, see the actions of Matthew Hurtgen as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of Matthew Hurtgen's alleged behavior, it definitely fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. Now, according to some reports, some are saying that Matthew Hurtgen possibly had some mental health episodes and possibly had this whole incident was a mental health episode based on poetry that he had presented on social media. And this violent poetry basically described how he wanted to participate in violence, with lines talking about how he sees knives sharpening, blood's oozing out of his eyes, he convulses and doesn't stop, he's lost, asleep, and dead. This is what he posted on Facebook before he allegedly committed this murder, and this was a warning sign that I basically see as related to this whole situation. But when I take a look at this whole incident, I don't know if I believe that this is an episode as related to mental health, because according to reports, Matthew Hurtgen's behavior was not really erratic over the course of his childhood. He only had one charge of DUI. However, he did come from a wealthy family, and he possibly did have white privilege to possibly cover up any sort of issues as related to mental health. That could be a possible situation. However, I don't believe that he had a mental health situation based on his old overall record. No, when I look at his behavior, it basically looks like he basically possibly had received a chemical imbalance in the brain, possibly from the use of drugs like marijuana, or in the case of this case, I'm speculating this possibly could be a case of someone who was out here using bath salts, because this type of behavior, basically people start becoming erratic like this when they go out here and take drugs and go out here and take these type of drugs, and it alters their brain chemistry. That's my theory regarding what happened here with Matthew Hurtgen. For him to go after his brother like this, I am basically believing that this whole incident is because this young man basically went out here and possibly was starting to use some sort of drugs. Now, toxicology reports will possibly have to become in as related to this case, but when I look at this man's pattern of behavior, based on the pattern of behavior I have seen with other males that I have made videos on in the past, it's looking to me like Matthew Hurtgen basically was on the road to being a man in crisis, basically because he came from a privileged lifestyle, and as part of that privileged lifestyle, he started to possibly enter a place that I call the secret world, because when it comes to a lot of beta males, they really cannot cope with dealing with life in the real world, and as they can't cope with dealing with life in the real world, they start to enter a secret world where they can feel safe about expressing their natural masculinity. Now, when it comes to these males like this, again, it's the pressures of life that get to them, and Matthew Hurtgen, again, coming from a perfect all-American family, possibly felt like he couldn't measure up as related to life, and possibly felt pressures from the real world and hoped to escape to the secret world. And as he looked to possibly escape to the secret world, this is just me speculating, he possibly entered into this secret world where he basically looked to escape all of these pressures, because he was, again, coming from a wealthy family. He was going to a top university in New Jersey, was a Michigan University soccer player, and also played soccer at Wesleyan University, and basically, again, had no criminal history, and all of those pressures possibly were the thing that got to this young man, Matthew Hurtgen. Possibly those pressures got to him, and as those pressures got to him, he possibly, I believe, looked to enter the secret world, and as he looked to enter the secret world, this is possibly where he possibly was looking to go into what I call in the man crisis, the chapter as addiction in the man crisis, because what some guys do is they look to escape by using drugs, and sometimes they go out here and use these drugs in a recreational fashion, looking to take the edge off. And as they look to take the edge off, what happens to these males is these males just go out here and they don't see how these drugs are basically affecting their brain chemistry. They can't see how the drugs are affecting their brain chemistry and how it's altering their brain chemistry, where they are going from being individuals with a sound mind to a mind that's basically degrading with each use of these drugs. That's possibly what I believe happened here in the case of Matthew Hurtgen. As related to his case, I believe he possibly was either taking one of these drugs that people consider to be recreational, like marijuana, or going out here and taking something like these bath salts, and this possibly led to him looking to go out here and attack his younger brother who he was living with, because as he was living with his brother, possibly he was again taking these drugs, and these drugs were again, as they were altering his mind and his frame of thinking, this is where his whole mindset started to possibly degrade, and possibly started to degrade to the fact that people were thinking, oh, this was a mental health episode, but it's not really a mental health episode. This is caused by these drugs, and this is something many people want to go out here and participate in plausible deniability with, because they want to believe drugs like weed are harmless. Unfortunately, they're not looking at the research as related to these kind of drugs and how they alter your mind and eventually alter your brain chemistry, and alter your brain chemistry to the point where a functioning, rational man can start to become erratic. And as he starts to become erratic, what happens is his mind becomes so destabilized, and becomes so destabilized to the point where they start thinking about participating in these acts of violence. That's what I believed happened here with Matthew Hurtgen, for him to look to want to hurt his brother, because usually when brothers are living together, two brothers love each other and care for each other, and for someone to again look to act violently like this to the point where they not only look to write with malice aforethought a plan to take the life of a brother, but also participate in disturbing behavior like taking one of the eyeballs out of your brother's face, of his dead body and then eating one of his eyeballs on a plate with a knife and a fork. This type of behavior definitely shows me that this person's whole brain chemistry was completely altered by drugs, and these drugs basically are the thing that could have, again, possibly was the thing that basically were the foundation for for this guy's brain chemistry to be altered. I'm thinking he possibly either took one of these legal drugs like marijuana, or took something like K2, which is known to be a synthetic marijuana that basically causes people to become extremely violent and erratic, or was taking something, again, I'll repeat it once more, the bath salts. Again, all of these are substances that a lot of wealthy individuals go out here and use for recreational use to basically be able to go out here and appear to be socially acceptable. And as they take these type of drugs, they're not seeing, again, how it's basically altering their brain chemistry and altering their whole mindset and perception of the world, because as they're living in this rose-colored reality, these ideas that they're having in their minds, they're believing that this is perfectly logical. And possibly after he came out of the high from these drugs, this is where Matthew Hurtgen then called 911, and after calling 911, basically again wound up with things as related to this whole case, getting arrested, taken into custody, and according to one report, possibly looked to attempt to take his own life as related to this case, because he basically realized what he had done and how disturbing his actions were as related to what he had did. And after seeing how he basically again took the life of his own brother, realized that he basically of the evil and heinous thing that he did, that's what he possibly did. According to reports from the New York Post, they said he attempted to take his own life after participating in this crime, and that whole pattern of behavior shows me a pattern of remorse as related to the just heinousness of this crime, and this man dealing with the harsh reality of his actions shows me that this guy basically coming out of the high that he was on as related to these drugs. And again, that basically shows me again that this was done again with malice of forethought under the influence of drugs, which basically doesn't change the culpability, because what basically is the culpability as of this case is again this man's actions of malice of forethought. And again, this guy went from being a guy who again had great success. He was coming from a family of soccer players and a family that had great wealth, and again sadly didn't appreciate that wealth because he was so caught up in the pressures of life. And as he got caught up in the pressures of life, what sadly happened to this guy, Matthew Hurtgen, is he basically hurt himself, and he went from being a part of, again, a wealthy family to winding up, again, taking the life of his brother, and now possibly is on the road to possibly going to prison for the rest of his life, where he will be going from the lap of luxury, where he had a family and connections to get jobs making lots of money, to working inside of a penitentiary where he will be making anywhere from 10 cents to $1 an hour under the authority of the COs, and basically will go from being in a place where he was looking to again socially escape through possible drug use to having to deal with the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles. And there won't be any escape, as he basically has to go out here and deal with possibly being traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Keef coffee, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand lemonade, Crystal Light tea, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, Hunt's snack pack puddings, beef summer sausages, packets of Velveeta cheese, packets of soy sauce, packets of sriracha sauce, salt, pepper, onion powder, all of the items of the commissary, and basically as he's being traded for these items in the commissary, he will basically regret the day he possibly got involved with possible illegal drug use. Again, me speculating, as Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles are basically going out here spit roasting dude and filling up the front side and the back side with big giant sausages, and Mr. Sprinkles coming in to basically, after these guys finish, spray the front side and the back side with special sauce, and basically after finishing him off, calling in the guys from Cell Block D and watching him show his handiwork as he splits the cheeks open and shows this guy's backside looking like the inside of Louisiana crunch cake. Because even though this guy thinks he has white privilege, there's no way he's gonna get out of this whole situation with a mental health excuse. No, I don't see how it's possible as related to this being mental illness. No, what I'm seeing here, based on what I've seen from a pattern of behavior, again, a man who has no episodes of mental health. Basically, again, this is looking like a guy who possibly, again, I'll repeat it once more, took either some marijuana or some K2, or went out here and sniffed some bath salts. This type of erratic behavior, it fits the pattern of someone who participated in drug use and shows the dangers of people who look to escape through illegal drug use, because when you look to escape through illegal drug use in the secret world, it basically gives you trouble in the real world and gets you into trouble in the real world because you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. And this is why you don't want to escape through illegal drug use. No, what you want to do is go get some counseling, and this guy again had the money to go get that type of counseling or mental health counseling if he was having mental health issues, and his erratic pattern of behavior would have been evident to people. Now, some want to again speculate that this is mental health, but from my years of experience of reading these kind of stories and seeing this pattern of behavior, it's looking to me like there was some possible drug use, and that's what possibly led to him attacking his brother and looking to again eat a part of his body and murder a family cat. This is what it's looking like to me, because this man basically was a man in crisis. A man in crisis who again was looking to deal with these pressures, and again these pressures possibly overwhelmed him, and as he kept those pressures to him, he basically was simmering and boiling in anger and looked to escape by dealing with that anger with drug use. But eventually that addiction basically possibly led to him exploding in this rage against his sibling, a rage that he had basically because I believe he couldn't cope with the pressures of life. And as he couldn't cope with the pressures of life, he went from being a successful man to winding up becoming a man in crisis. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can drop a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App. And if I know something about that subject and I can research the details of that subject, I will make that video for you. And if you want to learn and identify the behavior of men in crisis so that you can prevent a tragedy like this and get somebody help, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.